Bodine had killed his first man when he was 14. At 16, rustlers struck his father's ranch. Bodine's guns put 2 men in the ground and wounded another 2. At 17, Bodine was a grown man and went off to live with the Cheyenne for a year. He'd been spending time with them, sometimes weeks at a time, since he was a boy. At 19, he began part-time scouting for the Army. Between 19 and 25, the guns of Matt Bodine became legend in the West. But not just his guns, for Bodine's fists were just as feared. He knew Indian wrestling, boxing, and barroom brawling. And with trouble brewing on the frontier in the years following the war with the South, all of Bodine's legendary skills will be put to the test.
The stallion stopped grazing and lifted his head, ears alert. Bodine tensed under the blanket, one hand gripping the edge of the blanket. A whisper of a moccasin on grass reached him, followed by the faint smell of grease and wood smoke. Bodine exploded out of his bedroll just as a buckskin-clad shape came hurling out of the night. Bodine flipped the blanket over the shape, grabbed the ends tightly, and using his foot, tripped the man, sending him to the ground. Two Wolves rolled, freeing himself from the blinding blanket, and leaped at Bodine, his hands reaching for the man's throat. Bodine sidestepped and grabbed a wrist, turning as he did, and using a hip, he tossed his blood brother to the ground. Two Wolves came up and slapped Bodine open-handed. The blow stung, smarting Bodine's cheek and wetting his eyes. Bodine promptly returned the slap, twisting Two Wolves around. The stallion had returned to grazing. He had seen all this foolishness many times before. Grabbing Two Wolves around the waist, Bodine lifted him off his feet and threw him to the ground.
It was your turn anyway. I graciously allowed you to win.
You allowed me nothing, brother. Come, sit. Coffee's hot. Have you eaten?
Sam August Webster Two Wolves, the son of a Cheyenne chief and a white woman from Vermont. He's been blood brother to Matt Bodine since they were boys, and is just as handy in a fight. Although he has grown up in two worlds, he prefers to stay with his father's people on the plains. Unless his blood brother ropes him into some sort of dangerous adventure. When Bodine is called into the office of his commanding officer, it seems that one of those adventures is just around the corner.
General Sheridan has ordered an examination of the Yellowstone River, from its mouth to the junction with the Bighorn.
Damn it, Colonel. That area was to be set aside for the Crow and the Cheyenne. A stupid move if ever the government made one, knowing how Crow and Cheyenne feel about each other. Now this, on top of that fool rancher Tom Thomas?
The tribes will be given land a bit farther south of the original proposal.
Oh, sure. So Tom Thomas can have the best water and the best graze, and to hell with promises made to the Indians.
It wasn't my idea, Bodine. I just follow orders. The expedition will leave Fort Buford on May the 26th. 3 companies of infantry, 350 rounds of ammunition per man, a Gatling gun, and 1 month's rations for the field.
And you want me to do what?
Ride up there and tell your Indian friends to leave the troops alone.
Oh, is that all?
If you don't want the job, Bodine, just say so.
You don't have anyone else to send, do you?
No, I don't.
I might take a friend with me.
Bodine.
You want me to take the job or not?
All right, Bodine, do it your way. You got a couple of weeks to decide how to best approach it. George Custer is making big talk about how he would deal with the Indian problem.
Yellowhair is a pompous jackass.
True, but you didn't hear me say that. Whatever our personal feelings, George is a very capable soldier.
He's going to get a lot of people killed, Colonel. Mark that down in your book. I don't know where or when, but Yellowhair is heading for a lot of bad trouble and a hard fall.
Working separately, Bodine and Two Wolves convinced the tribes to leave the expedition alone, but the greedy rancher Tom Thomas has engineered the theft of army uniforms and weaponry. Men on his payroll, disguised as an army unit, will attack friendly tribes. The ensuing war will force Indians on the reservations, and their former lands will slip into Tom Thomas's hands. Between the Blood Brothers and the army, the plot is foiled. But now, Tom Thomas is after Bodine and Two Wolves.
Bodine took off his gun belt, rolled it up, and laid it on the table before Two Wolves. Tom Thomas removed his suit coat and rolled up his sleeves.
I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to kill you, Bodine, with my bare hands. I'm going to beat you to death.
Or maybe you'll put me to sleep with your flapping mouth.
Thomas stepped away from the bar and held up his fists in the classic boxer stance.
Oh, no.
Tom Thomas charged Bodine, who sidestepped and tripped the bigger man, clubbing him on the side of the head as he went down to the floor. Bodine kicked him twice in the side while he was down and then stepped back, allowing the man to get to his boots.
Foul! Oh, horse shit. This isn't the ring. This is a bare-knuckle strike and gouge. There aren't any rules.
Thomas suddenly lunged at Bodine, the force of his charge knocking the smaller man down. Bodine rolled quickly, avoiding Thomas's boots, and sprang to his feet, smiling at the man.
Come on, ape-face. Is this the best you can do? You fight like a dandy.
Thomas stepped in, swinging. Bodine twisted away and managed to land a right that jerked Thomas's head back. Bodine stalked him, flipping hard, fast fists at the man, worrying him more than hurting him, for Thomas blocked most of them with his massive arms. The spectators in the barroom grew strangely quiet. Bodine had clearly taken charge. Bodine flattened Thomas's nose all over his face with a left that got through.
It's over, Thomas. I don't want to beat you to death.
Fight, you yellow pup!
Bodine backed up, clearing his head, and then getting set. He hit Thomas flush on the teeth with a solid, straight right. Teeth flew from Thomas's mouth as he staggered back. Bodine followed that with a left that exploded against the man's jaw. Thomas's eyes began glazing over. Bodine hit Thomas in the center of his stomach, doubling the man over. He came up from the floor with a right to the jaw, and Thomas went flying. He rolled on the sawdust, over on his back, and lay still.
Good idea, Thomas. We'll just table this for now.
The defeat of Thomas in hand-to-hand combat gives Bodine and Two Wolves some brief satisfaction, but does little to improve the situation between the Indians and the army. Braves of many tribes gather under the leadership of the ruthless and fanatical war chief, Lone Dog. He is intent on driving the white man from Indian lands once and for all, but not all the tribes agree with Lone Dog's actions.
Bodine ate the stew of buffalo and wild onions and Indian potatoes, and then rested for a time in the lodge of his adopted father. He opened his eyes as the flap was pulled back.
Brother.
Bodine was shocked at Two Wolves' appearance, but managed to keep his expression bland. Two Wolves had lost weight, and Bodine was sure he had been fasting, seeking a vision to give him direction.
You are rested?
I am.
Come, we must talk.
They walked through the large camp.
My father and I shared the same vision, Bodine. There can be no war. Medicine Horse has spoken. He has ordered that I return to the white side of me. You know that my mother left me a large sum of money. Medicine Horse has said that when I leave this village, I should not wear the Indian clothing, but instead the clothing of the white man. He is my father, and I must obey.
Bodine was glad, but he hid that joy, for he felt that Two Wolves was filled with sorrow.
There is more, Bodine. My father has met with government men, and he has agreed to the reservation life. The tribe, his followers will be settled, for the time being, at the Standing Rock Reservation in the Dakotas. Colonel Travers has suggested that you lead them there. Our father would be honored if you would accept.
You know I will, Two Wolves.
My own heart is heavy and filled with pain. My father has also said that the others will fight, but it is a fight they cannot win.
When do we leave?
We shall begin packing in the morning. It will be a long trek, without joy.
But our father's people will be alive, Two Wolves.
Yes, in a manner of speaking.
With a heavy heart, Bodine leads Medicine Horse's people to the Dakotas.
On the day before they were to be met by the Indian agent at the northernmost tip of the reservation, Medicine Horse came to Bodine.
We shall say our goodbyes here, my son. You will not look again on my face.
Medicine Horse,
No, hear my words. I have placed myself in disgrace to save my people. A chief must take both the glory and the humiliation when one or the other is deserved. I'm entrusting the fate of Two Wolves into your hands. Keep him safe and out of the Valley of the Rosebuds. I have had a vision that will be shared by many chiefs over the coming months. After the snow flies this winter, stay away from the river that runs through the Rosebuds.
Do you know Custer, Medicine Horse?
Yellow hair? Yes, he's a great warrior. Why do you ask?
I had a dream the other night. It was disturbing. It was June, Father. I'm sure of that. I saw many soldiers falling upside down into an Indian camp. Yellowhair was among them. It was a great battle. It was also the beginning of the end.
For whom?
For you.
We have shared the same vision, my son. This is goodbye.
Medicine Horse walked away. He did not look back.
In the meantime, across the plains, Lone Dog and his braves raid settlements and ranches, killing and burning. Soon he has gained enough followers to attack his primary target, Tom Thomas's town of Cutter. Bodine and Two Wolves convinced the local army detachment and some of the townsfolk to take shelter in an abandoned mine on the outskirts of town.
Bodine and Gary just made the safety of the stone buildings before the Indians opened fire, the slugs sending everyone diving for cover. The Indians kept up the fire all that day. Lone Dog and his braves had taken ammunition from the dead men of Walker's militia. Two of Gary's troopers were downed by the gunfire from the hills and ridges, with one of them dying. One civilian was wounded, another was killed. Bodine knew that Lone Dog's braves were inching closer to the complex. They would probably attack from the west side just as the sun was going down, leaving the defenders facing that way nearly blind. Meanwhile, the town of Cutter was completely gone. Not even a privy had escaped the raging flames.
The attacking forces of Lone Dog are repulsed again and again, with casualties on both sides. A bloodless casualty of the engagement is Tom Thomas. In the course of the fight, it's revealed that he has a pact with Lone Dog. Thomas supplies the renegade with weapons, and Lone Dog leaves him alone. But once a skunk, always a skunk. Lone Dog is destroying Cutter because Thomas double-crossed him. When a column of cavalry reinforcements arrives, Lone Dog retreats and Thomas is arrested. Throughout the following winter and spring, the brothers spend time at their ranches and with their families, pursued by troubling dreams and rumors. The Indians are marshaling their forces, and the army may be no match for them. Finally, they find an opportunity to put a stop to the coming disaster.
Custer had ordered the column to arrest. He loped over to join Reno. Reno backed up his mount and spoke quietly with Custer for a moment. Custer moved forward to look at Bodine and Two Wolves. The colonel's long, flowing hair had been cut short even for that time. His mustache was thick and bushy, hanging well over his mouth. He wore a red tie, fringed buckskins, and a wide-brimmed campaign hat. He was 36 years old. Custer waved Reno back to the column and faced the two men alone.
State your business, Bodine.
You're riding into a death trap, Colonel. You have vastly underestimated the strength of the Sioux and the Cheyenne and the Rosebuds.
You saw the encampment?
My news comes from Crow King.
Then I must place no credence in your warning, sir. But I do thank you for your concern. Is there anything else?
We've had a hard ride to warn you, sir. We could do with some supplies.
How many days?
3 should do it.
See the quartermaster. Good day, gentlemen.
Custer wheeled his mount and rode back to the column. Bodine stared at Custer's back, a disgusted expression on his face.
On second thought, I think we can do without his supplies. We'll hunt what we need. That sound all right with you? Brother?
Bodine glanced at him. His brother was staring at the long column intently, an odd expression on his face.
What do you see?
I do not want their supplies either, Bodine. Let's ride.
Now that the fight seems inevitable, the brothers find they cannot stay away from it. Two Wolves knows that his father, Medicine Horse, will choose honor in battle over confinement on the reservation, and he wishes to be with his father and his people at the end. Bodine is conflicted in his loyalties, but feels that his place is with Two Wolves and Medicine Horse, and so they make their way toward Dakota Territory, and the rolling Rosebud Mountains, and a river called the Little Bighorn.
Sunday, June the 25th, was a hot, dry, and dusty day. By dawn, Custer had been on the march for over an hour, pushing straight toward the Little Bighorn River. Colonel Travers, at the head of 4 companies of cavalry, was just entering the eastern edge of the Rosebud Mountain Range. Bodine and Two Wolves had ridden to within a mile of the river and picketed their horses in a natural corral. They proceeded on foot, carefully, toward a ridge that overlooked the valley of the Little Bighorn.
Jesus God, the column of men's got to be 4 miles long.
I told you.
There must be 7,000 or 8,000 down there.
Yes, about 3,500 warriors. The ghost dancing was concluded last evening. They are ready.
The combined forces of Sioux and Cheyenne spotted Custer as he and his command topped the ridge just north of Reno's embattled position. Because of the dust and the haze in the gun-smoke-filled air, Custer did not see what dire straits Reno was in and continued on north, pursued by at least 2,000 hostiles. Custer tried to get off the ridge and did manage for a time to fight near the river, but within minutes was forced back onto the ridge and continued on north, losing men with each Indian assault. By this time, most of the Indians who had been fighting Reno and Benteen had left the creek to pursue the companies of cavalry on the ridge. All the soldiers who had been along the river, from all commands, had now pulled back to the ridges, many of them losing their horses and their rifles, forced to fight with 6-shooters. However, they were only issued 24 rounds of ammunition for their sidearms. Conditions were growing desperate for the 7th Cavalry. Bodies littered the ground between the river and the ridges. Bands of Cheyenne began leading charges up the ridges, getting very close to the soldiers. The badly frightened horses of the cavalrymen broke and ran free. Out of the 7 companies of troops on the ridges, only 4 companies still had mounts. There was no place left to run.
My God, how could this be?
Custer and his men had now retreated to a point just above the Minneconjou and Blackfoot camps in the village.
Men, I need a volunteer. I need a volunteer to summon Captain Benteen and his men. This is an order of the utmost urgency.
I'll go, sir. I'll go.
Godspeed, lad.
The courier did not make it, and Benteen, Reno, and Weir would not know what had happened to Custer and his men for another 36 hours. No one is really sure what happened to the courier. He, nor 26 troopers of the E Company, were ever seen again.
We must keep moving. We must tire them out of their pursuit. We must press on.
Medicine Horse charged up the hill, waving his coup stick. Custer was dumb with surprise as he recognized Medicine Horse. Custer lifted his pistol and shot Medicine Horse through the chest. The chief tumbled from his horse and stubbornly crawled up the hill. He whacked Custer on the leg with his coup stick, rolled over, and died with a smile on his lips. Custer and his few remaining troopers held to their battle formation to the last. Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer fell to his knees after being shot through the left side. Bleeding badly, Custer summoned all his will and struggled to rise to his boots. He continued fighting until moments later he was shot through the temple. Without uttering another sound, he fell to the hot, dry earth and died. Many Indians have stated that he was the last in his command to die on Last Stand Hill. Custer's body was stripped naked, but he was neither scalped nor mutilated, a sign of respect from the Indians who killed him. Bodine and Two Wolves rode along the valley and came up to Last Stand Hill from the west. They sat their horses and stared at the scene, total shock and disbelief in their eyes. All the bodies of slain Indians had been taken away.
God have mercy on their souls.
Bodine finally swung down and walked to where Custer lay. Medicine Horse's coup stick lay beside Custer's body. He pointed to it and looked at Two Wolves, questions in his eyes. Two Wolves shook his head.
We are in great danger here, brother. It will not matter who we are. If we are found by either side on this hill, we will die.
The brothers decide that they can never tell anyone how close they were to the battle, nor reveal what they saw from their vantage point. But they cannot erase their memories, the helplessness they felt as they watched the carnage unfold. They both know that their lives will never be the same.
Bodine and Two Wolves swung into the saddle and headed out. But with it, they both knew another notch had been carved deeply into their already growing reputations.
Do you suppose, Bodine, that when our luck begins to turn bad, we'll have enough sense to hang it up and go back home?
I sure hope so, brother. I surely do.
The two young men galloped south, letting their horses run for a time, carrying them into the unknown. They were brothers of the wolf, bonded by blood. If you chose to fight one, you had to fight the other. And they knew that destiny pulled them south.
Look, Bodine, a message. It's a sign.
A great old Lobo wolf stood on a knoll, watching them through wise eyes.
Don't miss the rip-roaring action and adventure of William W. Johnstone's Blood Bond. You can purchase individual episodes on CD or as MP3 downloads, all available at www.graphicaudio.net.